Welcome to the Virtual Memories Show. I'm your host, Gil Roth, and we're here to preserve and promote culture, one weekly conversation at a time. You can subscribe to the Virtual Memories Show through iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and a whole bunch of other venues. Just visit our sites, chimeraobscura.com/VM or vmspod.com to find more information, along with our RSS feed. And follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at VMSPod. Well, I'm in a crazy work mode. I got my big pharmaceutical conference coming up in about 2 weeks, and I'm in all sorts of crazy anxiety mode about getting that together. But it's the usual crazy anxiety mode. Like, I know what I'm in for, so I just got to bear up and get through it all. On the upside, I had this great trip down to Princeton last Saturday to record with Patrick McDonald, which will be next week's show. And last recorded down there in 2017 with Patrick, and my wife hung out with his wife, Karen. And this time we went down and got to just spend some time hanging with Patrick and Karen and going out for lunch and ice cream and just shooting the breeze. And it was weird because it reminded me that, like, this is what having a social life would be like if I didn't live in the woods and you know, generally avoid human contact outside of, podcasts and work. But anyway, that's my thing. You don't need to hear any more about that. As I told you guys last week, I went to the Small Press Expo, or SPX, in Bethesda, Maryland the weekend before, where I got to catch up with a ton of pals and buy some comics, was handed some comics, and record some podcasts. And that brings us to this week's guest, the great Keith Knight. See, Keith's long-awaited comic memoir, I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator, is out now from his Keith Knight Press. And going into it, we made tentative plans to record during the weekend, but never really nailed down a time. And it can get kind of complicated because of the time Keith is going to be spending, in the show floor, tabling and then some of the appearances he had, and everybody has to get together, and there are dinners and this, that, and the other. And the upshot was around 10:30 p.m. on Saturday, Keith walked up to me at the hotel bar where I was holding forth with Eddie Campbell and Landis Blair. And he just said, "Are we doing this, man?" So I took him upstairs, set up the mics, and I got you an hour of conversation about the new book, the experience of making 2 seasons of the TV show Woke, how Keith's continuing to grow as a storyteller, some Michael Jackson stuff, and it was, as I put it, the latest show I've ever done, literally the latest in the evening. And this is why, as an early caveat, my voice is flat out shot during this one. It was even worse the next day, and you'll hear those podcasts come up in the weeks ahead. But yeah, this was recorded 10:30 at night to 11:30 at night in a hotel room in Bethesda, Maryland. Anyway, I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator is a hoot. Covers the year and a half in the 1980s when Keith, was an MJ impersonator. The stories are hysterical. I mean, he's got his antic comic style, both visually and in terms of storytelling, down. The pages just sweep you along in terms of what it meant to be an MJ impersonator back then. And the neat thing about it is Keith brings heart to all these stories, not in any cloying way, but you get the humanness of the guy, of who Keith was in that moment, and sort of that sense of confusion of being cheered on for being someone he wasn't. And we get stories of his family's reactions to this gig and his relationship with a Madonna impersonator, his failed attempt at organizing a bunch of celebrity impersonators into a union, and a whole bunch more. And it all makes for this incredible snapshot of both a period in Keith's life and in our conception of fame, because what this is all about really is, how do you get that aura of fame, and what does it mean to kind of be reflected in it? And of course, Keith being Keith, there's a very significant role of race, and how it plays out in social dynamics and entertainment. Plus, every chapter includes some of Keith's pages about musicians from the era, with reflections on Stevie Wonder, Run DMC, Bowie, and a couple of others. And it all adds up to this really fun book that will give you a greater appreciation of Michael Jackson, of the lunacy of the 80s, of Keith Knight, ultimately, who's the center of this book. So go get I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator. It's from Keith Knight Press. It's available through Keith's site, which is kchronicles.com. So the letter K and the word Chronicles. I'll have this all in the show and episode notes for this one. Oh, while you're at it, go check out Keith's TV series on Hulu, Woke. Last time we recorded was right before Woke premiered. The show got 2 seasons before going to streaming heaven. But it's an absolute blast, and it really deserved a lot more time to tell its story. Still, go watch Woke on Hulu and go get I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator. Now, here's Keith's bio from the book. There's a more extensive one at his site. Keith Knight is the award-winning creator of the K Chronicles, The Nightlife, and Think, and is the co-creator and inspiration behind the Hulu comedy Woke. And now, the 2023 Virtual Memories Conversation with Keith Knight. So you started the book in 2008?
No.
Okay, there's a thing in there about 2008 to 2023.
No.
Tell me where the MJ Impersonator book started.
It started in 2011. I think I launched the Kickstarter. And, yeah, I think it was 2011. So I think it's been 12 years. And, but for years, people have encouraged me to do the book.
As I did. I think it was 2015 or 16 when we first met. And it was, that sounds like a really neat book.
Yeah, but even like when I was volunteering at Artist Television Access in San Francisco in the early 90s, people were like, I did one strip about being a Michael Jackson impersonator. They said, "Is that true?" And I said, "Yeah, you should do. That sounds like that would, they said that would make a good movie." But yeah. I knew I would do it eventually, and what I didn't anticipate, obviously, between launching the Kickstarter and finishing the Kickstarter, that I would get a television show, and so that would take up, a good 7 years, really, just developing it and bringing it to fruition. So. But it was a wonderful journey, and people were really cool. People were patient, and they saw what I was doing. It wasn't like he's hiding out. He
took our money and he's
not doing anything.
Did you feel? Did the story change for you? I mean, I know what was there, but as you got more years on it, how did it change?
Actually, what I think going through the writer's room with the television show helped me hone the story.
Yeah. I've been wondering about that. I hope we could talk more about how this whole experience has changed you as a cartoonist and storyteller.
Yeah, totally. I realized that, there were stories in the Michael Jackson book that had nothing to do with being a Michael Jackson impersonator. It was just stories of me getting laid. And so I was like, I don't want this to just be a book about me getting laid, so...
Which will be its own Kickstarter, but
yeah, there you go. So once that dropped away, I saw the story that was there, and I just approached each of the stories were pretty much started. What I liked. I named all the chapters after Michael Jackson songs. Yeah. And each one of these stories were like, oh, okay, this is when, the first. The variety show, and then someone saying, "Oh, you would make a good Michael Jackson," and sort of practicing, and then I'm not going to give stuff away, but like those were the important things, and and then I just realized all the stories start in truth, and they're mostly true, but like the ones that, I just wanted to make sure they ended in good ways.
That they had a structure.
Yeah, they had a structure to it and a twist to it. And that's where the writer's room, I think, came in. Mm-hmm. Because you write a scene and you hope a scene goes somewhere that you weren't expecting. So that's what really helped. So, and also the deadline, frankly.
Yeah.
What happened was Hollywood went on strike. The writers went on strike, and I could no longer, since I was going to be a guest at Comic-Con this year. And, as writers, as members of the guild, we're not promoting anything. So I was like, okay, I can't promote the show. I can't have any of the actors in a panel. So
I should ask, it's not woke, right? The new show. As far as I know, woke had ended after season 2.
Yeah. Okay. No. But no. This was, I was a special guest at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's have a celebration of woke. And
so it was connected to woke, but not a new season.
No, not a new,
just making sure.
Not a new thing. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to have anything unless I have something new. And it's just like, this is the opportunity to finish. And so I literally grabbed the calendar off the wall and looked at how much time I had and figured out how many pages I had to do every day. And then I called the printer and I said, like, how...
Drop dead.
Yeah, like, what's the drop dead time? And, how much would it, cost to send these boxes out here? And it just worked out perfectly. It was just like... In fact, they sent it to me earlier than anticipated. And so I was able to send a bunch of books out before even Comic-Con, and people were like, "Oh my god!"
Advanced copy.
Yeah.
And also using some of your music related strips as sort of not interstitials, but sort of the extras after the main drama of each chapter.
Yeah, and that was really great because I really wanted, these were various things I did for different. Publications, and Prince fell the Prince story fell in that perfect time. Stevie Wonder, David Bowie, like all these different ones, and so there were other ones, but they didn't fall. They didn't fall within that time, so I cut those out too, so it just worked out like everything, and I think those stories come in at the right times, and it takes you away from it and then brings you back into the story.
Yeah. It shows a bigger musical world that you're engaged in, and showing how you were engaged at that age, not just the retrospective 30, 40, 50 years guy.
Yeah.
It's I thought they were really illuminating, except because I'm an old man now, I actually had to take my contact lenses out to read, because it's, those reproductions, some of them, it's regular comic size. I'm like, I'm an old man. I need to actually look at these pages.
No, it is a little small. Oh
no, it's just my eyesight. Trust me, I can't read Chris Ware comics. That's my biggest thing. I have to do this in the morning before I put stuff in. But tell me about music in your life, and how it's incorporated in both in your comics, and then how you use music within woke also. I know it's a hugely broad thing to just say music, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, music I think music just opens up your world in ways that a book opens up your world, like maybe in a different way, obviously, sonically, but music has always been a huge thing in my life, and I think I write about it. I remember just sitting there listening to Stevie Wonder as a kid, just sitting there listening to the album. But just there's so many moments. In fact, like, I could have wrote. Now that I think about it, we used to, I had a buddy. One of the only guys that is still creative, who was creative with me when we were kids, and he plays in a huge punk band in Boston. We used to, listen to the Meatmen and go roofing. So one of us would drive all crazy and the other would hang on the roof. Like a couple of us would hang on the roof and just play the Meatmen. And So like, I had these guys that we'd go to punk shows, and then I had my buddies who we'd go to hip hop shows, just like all the different things. So, I just loved it. And a lot of it was our parents. It was older brothers I didn't have an older brother, but
that's always that trickle down thing.
Yeah.
I was telling someone how my hearing is doomed because I was 9 years old when the Walkman came out, and my brother was into the Who. And that's a deadly combination. I was damaging my hearing at 9 or 10 point. So
it's super interesting because I remember my buddy Craig, his brother had like an image from a Led Zeppelin album up. He painted on the wall in his room, and so we would have like Led Zepp songs and by that time he was taking the break beats and we were just making mixes and stuff like that. And, we scammed our way into the school radio station when we were freshmen, not because we knew how to DJ, but like we watched our friend always do all those mixes. So we knew how to run turntables. And, so we had, one of the first hip hop shows at Salem State, now university. It was college back then, but I always mixed in all this, I'd mix in punk bands and new wave and reggae, like all this type of stuff. And I just, again, it just made me think of, it made me travel to places when I couldn't afford to physically travel places.
Yeah.
So.
And the use of music in woke?
It's, one of the things that people are surprised to hear is they let me be a part of all aspects of the show. So like literally I wrote episodes. I was in the writer's room. I picked, places where we shot. I picked extras. I did, I was on set to rewrite stuff when need be and just like so many different things. And I got to pick music and, it's fun to be a creator and a producer, executive producer, because I knew all aspects of it. So we knew when we were running out of money. So
I was going to add, what was a song you couldn't get because rights would have been too high?
We got the songs that were the most important. So we got Public Enemy, like Fight the Power, for the throw of the barrel against the wall. Like that had to be Fight the Power. So that was super expensive. We tried to find something else other than Lovely Day, like Bill Withers. That was a big money thing. Right. But like nothing fitted. It was perfect. And Lovely Day is like one of my favorite songs too. And so after that, when we were looking for certain songs, what I wanted was I wanted certain songs, but I wanted different versions of certain songs. So Rainy Day and Mondays, the Carpenter song, Rainy Days and Mondays Always Bring Me Down. We didn't use the Carpenter's version. We used, I think they were the Intruders. It was a soul band.
Yeah.
And I loved doing that. And then there was, I Fought the Law and Law Won. We didn't use the Clash. We used, a reggae version of it. Just different things like that. I thought it was really important to show all aspects of black music. And got to, sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's a lot better than using the bossa nova version of first wave songs or new wave songs that people kind of made a boring trope after a while. But and also, I mean, it got to, like, once we ran out of money, I was like, I know the cheapest band ever. So I got Marshall Prophets in there in both seasons. So that was really fun. But, I mean, there are all these moments. What I love about the second season is we use the band Death from Detroit. Their posters are all in the apartment and sort of signify that
Keith, the character must die at the end of the not to give anything away, but what was great about that is I did when I saw the documentary of Band Called Death, I did a comic on it, and I ran it, and one of the papers I still run in is in Burlington, Vermont, and the graphic designer of that paper was one of the nephews of one of the guys in that band.
Yeah.
And he's in a punk band, and we got to use his band's music in the final episode of season 2, and so it just all came around. Rough Francis is the name of the band. So,
how's it feel having a show that you got 2 seasons? Everybody wants more, but did you feel okay, or do you just feel like, oh my God, I wish we had?
No, I mean, I would have loved to have had a 3rd season, but I mean, a lot of people say it's part of the streamers. It's
a whole economy of. That's why there's a strike going on right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's a certain amount of money they have to pay if it goes to a 3rd season, and but also at the same time, the word woke has become this
I was going to say, I won't have this woke tomfoolery on my show.
But I was hoping I was going to bring them to Burning Man in season 3, which would have, and Keith does something to basically get Burning Man banned forever, and I think the timing would have been really good, just the way Burning Man went down this year, but it wasn't meant to be. But that's not believe me, I'm totally no regrets. Yeah. Left everything on the table. To this day, people reach out to me and say, I just discovered the show. It's amazing. The guy came up to me today. It's like, so what'd you think of the show? And I said, oh, it was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. He's like, good. Because I loved it, and I just wanted to know how much you had to do with it. I was like, I had everything to do with it. So, and I tell everybody this. So many people sell their stuff to Hollywood, and they have nothing to do with the.
You take the check and just go.
Yeah. And then they get mad when Hollywood messes it up. Oh, it sucks. They really messed it up. Now, they've been a little bit better with comics these days, but I just wanted to make sure I was there for all of it. So when it started to be screwed up, I could say, oh, okay, this is where it screwed up, So
did you have a sort of, I'll say, mentor or somebody who was sort of a shepherd for you? Because I can imagine you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
No,
going
and
into
that's
that
the
sort
thing. You learn as you went, and I would say, if anything, I'd say the director Mo Marable, our producing director, was an incredible mentor, just helping me along. But a lot of it, especially the first season, just had no idea. And looking back on it and people talking about it, now I saw all these certain signals, and because we didn't have a great experience in the first season writer's room. And so we had to do a lot of rewriting on the fly in Vancouver as we shot. So it was intense, and I looking back on it, it was like, wow, that was amazing, that we pulled that off. But
and they were like, you shouldn't have to do that.
No, it was very intense. I mean, it was like...
Is there a way to talk about it without slagging anyone? What didn't work and why it led to that? Or?
Well, I just think what happened was it was 2 first-time co-creators and a first-time showrunner. And that, I don't think...
Okay.
Yeah, that's
just
not a great
knowing
mix.
What state you needed to be in before shooting.
Yeah. And so, it's... I just think that was the case. And so we remedied it the next season, and, the writer's room went swimmingly the second season. And a lot of people say, wow, you really, the writing really got tight the second season.
Episodes fed into each other, plots fed through, and things carried in a way that they don't in the first season.
Yeah.
But I felt, partly it's the first season, you're introducing things, so there's some of that challenge also in the process.
But no, it was fun. Like by the second season, the one thing that I really learned about good writing is you drop nuggets early on and then you revisit them later, and that's in every good comedy set. Someone drops a joke and it's a funny joke way back when, and then somehow they return to it, and that's the great capper. And it's just like returning to that chorus or taking it to another place or whatever. And that's the thing I learned. So when I wrote the finale of the second season, I was like, I'm going to revisit something from every episode all the way through the episode. So I revisited every single episode in it.
Strike notwithstanding, anything in development that you can talk about?
Well,
I don't know if that's sensitive.
No, it's I'm working on something where I set aside a couple of characters that we didn't use in the show that were from the nightlife that I wanted to develop into their own show. So I'm just working on that, and I think it's going to be animated. So what I'm working on now is just a script, and we want to animate a certain sequence of that script as a sort of teaser. That we can use it to pitch. And so depending, I'm looking to crowdfund it, and we have a much shorter timeline to get it done. And so what I'd like to do is, we'll see how much we can raise, and that will show us how much animation we can get done. So there'll be a minimum, and they'll say, okay, this is what we need to produce
X minutes or X seconds.
Yeah.
Your visual style?
Totally.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it's animating a Keith Marker looking.
No. It'll be my stuff, and I, so many people have spoken to me about, your stuff has all this energy. It would be great to see it animated. And this one animator, he's really amazing at that. I've seen his work and other stuff and I'd look at it and go, oh my goodness, like he would do wonders with my style, So I'm looking forward to it.
As am I. There's something that comes up near the end of the book about the interaction you have with audiences, particularly as an MJ impersonator, and then with your band in the 90s when, yes, you're naked on stage in San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. But I guess the differences in an audience in person, an audience for your strip, an audience, through Patreon, a TV audience, streaming, which is different than, a show comes out every Tuesday or something like that. Do you notice how you react as an artist to these different forms of audience interaction, like what that immediacy is like when you're on stage versus
I mean it's all a different type of thing. I mean I think there's no better. It's so fun playing live. It's just the energy is crazy, and I love playing live. It was amazing. And I mean, I don't, I guess I don't think it was the same feeling as a Michael Jackson impersonator, but it was.
But you frame it as preparing you in a sense,
to
without
me,
realizing
it's like,
it was.
if I could get away with that, I certainly can get away with, playing with a real band, like, performing.
My voice? Oh my God.
It's just like, it's funny because the first band I had, it was just a total fluke. Like on that radio station, the college radio station, we used to have these stoners come on after us with the jazz show, and they would just come in and smoke tons of weed. This is like 1984. Like, just say no, we'll put you under the jail if you. And they're in there smoking weed, like these older white dudes, and we're like, wow, like that's crazy. And one of them was a filmmaker, and he said, "Hey, man," and we'd always joke. He was like always this really mellow dude, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm shooting this video, and I need. Can you guys play like musicians in it? Can you play like rappers in it?" And we say, "Yeah, we'll do it." And so we shot it, and we wrote this song called "Dress Cool," and so we did it, and then like a couple of years later, someone took the tape of that song and just entered it in a battle of the bands, a campus battle of bands. So we made the concert. Like
if we don't exist, but sure, okay, whatever.
So in 3 weeks, me and my cousin put our heads together and we're like, okay. Who plays drums? Oh, Paul, the black kid who was into heavy metal from our high school. He plays drums. So we called him. Then we had our DJ friend Craig, who was always, practicing with his brother's Led Zepp records. And then the stoner guy who made the film, he was a guitarist. And the French art student that I used to hang out with, Pierre, played bass. And then we had another guitarist, Bruce. And 3 weeks we put a band together, wrote 4 more songs, and then had that first song, and we won the concert. And it was crazy because it was that mixture of rock and rap before it really hit.
I say, where do you see that starting? I mean, the Run DMC page you've got sort of, implies
but even that, but in 1989 is when we did that, and people were like, whoa, like, at WBCN, we had a judge like from WBCN who like hated us. But everybody else loved it. And they said the turntable will never be an instrument, but and someone was really jealous because it was being broadcast on the local station, our college station, and they ended up putting on Culture Club or something like in protest because we sounded too much like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's what they said.
Yeah, well, we know what they were saying, but that's always the way with this stuff.
But so that's completely different than like my audience. The audience has changed. Like, it's nice to get the likes. It's nice to get people reposting stuff. It's, I am a people person. I like to, I think cartooning was not the greatest job for someone who likes to be around people, but I draw in cafes all the time.
I was going to say, when we got together the first time in North Carolina, it was at a cafe that you love drawing at. I was like, okay, he does the work in public, even if it's hunched over a table. But.
And so I love getting out and just hearing feedback and interacting with people. And that's why I do the slideshows, because...
that's what I wasn't thinking. That's another audience dynamic that differs from every other form you're in.
Exactly. And I just did one on Wednesday, and I loved it. And my wife was like, the older you get, the less fucks you give.
How have those slideshows and presentations changed for you? Again, less fucks to give, but what characterizes that?
I don't know. I think I make more white people squirm. But I'm telling the truth, and like, as things get more absurd with book bans and all these different things, I'm just saying, like, this is, if we knew the history of this country, all this stuff that's going on now happened 100 years ago, happened 50 years ago, happened 200 years ago. So, if we don't learn this stuff, in no way, shape, or form does learning about any of this stuff make someone feel awkward or guilty or anything. It's just like, if anything, I feel empowered because I know the truth. Like, nobody wants to not know that their family has a history of, say, this disease or that disease, so they can look out for it and be aware of it. And so that's what I think. Knowing the history, the not so great parts of the history of this country helps keep us from doing the same thing over and over again. And so what I love about the effect of the show, even though we're not getting another season, is my profile's been raised. And so, many more sales of books, many more slideshows, it's been really cool.
Living in the South, I know it's a cosmopolitan area of the South that you live in, but I drove down to Charlottesville Thursday and I started encountering signs on the road and Civil War graffiti museums and things like that. And I was like, this isn't being in Washington. This isn't being in New Jersey. This is a different world.
No, but I will say this: like I think different other parts of the country use the South as an excuse. Like, oh, we're not as bad as the South. Yeah. And no, it's a different.
I've always asked my wife, who's from Louisiana, covert racism versus overt racism, and it's like, the covert's really bad when you pretend you're not, but
Yeah.
But anyway,
someone said to me a long time ago too, like, the South, like, white people in the South don't mind living next to black people as long as they're poor or something. And then white people in the North don't mind black people being rich as long as they don't have to live near them, or there's a much cleaner thing than that. But yeah, it's like, and if people don't understand that, the reason, and I think this is one of the reasons why they want to ban learning about black history and just the ugly history of this country, is because I think the more poor whites understand the history, the more they realize that they're victims in it too. Yeah. Like the whole plot is to create this racial hierarchy. Rich whites were like, how can we make poor whites not rise up and take our shit? So we'll do this racial hierarchy and make poor whites feel like, oh, it's, black people and immigrants and stuff taking stuff away from you, like keep them battling at each other. And I think, once people start to understand that it's not just race, but it's class, it's like, and it's systemic, it's all designed, that, the American dream is just a myth. I think.
You did get your own TV show, though. I'm just kidding. Go on.
But, it's just that, like, once they see that, I mean, that's the danger. That's the danger, and that they don't want people to know. So it's like, yeah, let's not talk about this history. So, yeah.
Other aspects of story that you've learned, and I know that sometimes things aren't going to translate into like a 3-panel, strip of yours versus what you actually want to tell. But do you feel comics are your milieu anymore?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think comics are, and I say this in my new slideshow, it's the ultimate DIY medium.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time. The first season of my show, I think, cost $26 million to shoot. And it's based on something that cost $1.26 to make, a pen and a piece of paper.
Right.
And that's the greatest thing about comics. It's the ultimate DIY. You don't need special effects. You don't need, you just need your imagination. And no one, I probably said this before, no one, if the Jurassic Park people didn't get the dinosaurs right, no one, everybody like, that looks fake.
Yeah.
Comics, automatic buy-in, It's like no one questions whether Garfield eats lasagna. Cats don't eat lasagna. No one says that. It's just like, boom, that's it. He doesn't like Mondays. He drinks coffee. I believe it. So that's the great thing about comics.
But in terms of storytelling, things you've taken from the TV experience, does anything translate back into, as it did with the MJ book? Are you seeing other influences from your TV?
time?
Well, I mean, I think it's, I think you just got to move forward, and I think the deadline always helps.
Yeah.
The deadline on all in all aspects, and I finished this book because I had that deadline and for San Diego, but I think the deadline makes you go, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. And it's not so precious. Like, you have to like get it to that point and get it off. Yeah. And then you rely on, I mean, I like being the dumbest person in the room.
I was going to say the collaborative nature where you're not a cog, but you're a piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And I was never so precious to be like, and that's one of the reasons why, early on in the show, there was a Kirsten character named after my wife, and I was too precious with her.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Because the first season I had, you talk about that.
We, renamed her Adrian and made her, like a sort of come in halfway, and she would have returned in the third season. Mm-hmm. But we lost her to ghosts, by the way.
How'd your wife feel about a character like that? Was she comfortable with?
Well, we named her after her brother Adrian, which is really nice. And she was really bent out of shape, but like the whole.
I just mean like representing your relationship. It changed for TV
in a much different way. Yeah. I mean, early on, she was a roommate in the house. Yeah. And that was an early version of the script. And then we're like, we gotta, he had to lose everything. That was the thing, is he had to lose everything. And so, so she wasn't expecting to like it when we were finished. She's like, but they cut me out, and then she saw it and she's like, oh, wow, this is really great. Like, so. Yeah,
I was afraid there would be some sort of, I can't believe you used this thing from our relationship as a story point or anything like that.
No. It never really,
got that personal or.
Yeah. There was an early version where, they were together, they broke up, then at the end, he asked to marry her, but it was too, that couldn't happen in just one season. It was too much.
You thinking of more long form comics at this point?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Besides Keith getting laid.
Yeah. No, I have some particular ideas that I have in mind as far as long form stuff. So. Now that I know I have this groove, I have this way of doing it, I definitely want to do
I wonder,
more.
Is there a sense of, didn't know I could do this long of a strip, this long of a story? Just knowing that you could actually, complete it and keep the whole thing,
I think, now that it's done, I was like, oh, okay, I could do that. I just needed to just grind, and I just need that. I need that deadline. I need it. And that makes sense. It just. Yeah.
That's how a lot of stuff gets done. I'll tell you a story about Bill Griffith afterwards that was also about deadlines and how they kind of put you in a different state of mind to get something done. Do you watch the series Killing It with Craig Robinson on Peacock?
No.
Okay.
That's the one in Florida.
Yeah. About the first season is about snake hunting. Second season is a much stranger exploration of economic realities in 2017. There is an episode centered around a cadre of pit bull impersonators. Because there's a guy impersonating Pitbull at a conference, and it turns out there are 9 or 10 of them out there, and
That's funny. That's
they all
good.
look a little alike, but not enough. One soul patch falls off at one point, and yeah, it's
That's funny.
put me in mind of this when I was reading the book, and I was like, oh yeah, things haven't changed. We still see these impersonators, and
Yeah.
Do you still have MJ moves? Do you ever practice?
No, I don't. No, I've taught my kids how to moonwalk, but it's so funny because I was just doing reading with Mary Naomi at the People's Book, and she goes, so can you do some moves? Can you please, I want you to do some moves. And I was like, no.
I'll throw my back out. Sorry.
No, well, I just went into it because I was like, I went into this thing like I'm not gonna dance for other people's amusement, but I didn't want her to take it like that. And then we start talking, and then I realized it stems back from after high school. When a couple of my friends got married. At the reception, the DJ would put on a Michael Jackson song, and then everyone would turn and look at me like, come on. And then it's just like, I'm not going to dance for any of you. I'm never going to dance for anybody's amusement. So, that's
understand. Or if I'm not getting paid, I
think that's what Mary said. She said, yeah, like, you should just demand to get paid.
Favorite MJ song?
Oh, there's a few, but
it's tough. I know.
Working Day and Night is one of them, and I will say the best album is the Off the Wall album, and that was another that was a chapter that ended up on the floor because I was going to have an analysis of why Off the Wall is better than Thriller, and I think Thriller is more popular because of the videos, but
it came out different era. Just a couple of years meant a huge difference for when videos first blew up.
Exactly. But song to song, the only thing that probably is probably a really quality song that I think would make Off the Wall even better is Want to Be Starting Something. I think that is a high quality one that is on the Thriller album that would beat, like, I put song to songs if they were fights.
Yeah, if they're brackets where they could go.
Yeah. So
I from my very scant experience DJing, I've always found that Billie Jean will blow up any party that's bored. Like the moment they hear the line, it's Billie Jean, we have to dance,
Yeah.
But that's serving a very special purpose, or a set purpose that everybody has in their heads already.
Yeah, but there were various other MJ songs that but that Working Day Night is a top thing. But then like the early Jackson 5 stuff.
I was going to ask Jackson 5 versus MJ songs for you.
Well, the 3 Corporation songs, ABC, I Want You Back, Stop, the Love You Save. Those 3, and then there's sort of the teen Michael Jackson, sort of the Awkward Time, and what's the song? We have an essential Michael Jackson album that's in our van right now, and Working Day and Night is not on it, which is horrible, but then there's another song that I can't think of. They have Don't Blame It on Sunshine, Don't Blame It on Moonlight, Blame It on the Boogie. That's it. That's on there. But there's another song that they left off there. That is it.
Don't say Ben.
Oh, Dancing Machine.
Ben. Okay, good. You didn't say Ben.
Dancing Machine. Ben's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's from a rat movie, but it is a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And then later, Michael Jackson.
Like the post-Thriller, Bad and Beyond.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing, like trying to assess what you like. Not in the controversies about MJ, just the music itself, trying to figure out what really worked. Because Smooth Criminal's a good fucking singer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's been remade, and it's well done. Like, even the remake's well done. I mean, it's a good song. Man in the Mirror is that really great song with the with the choir and everything. Like, I'm sure he was like, when you first hear that song, you're like, oh man, like this is this is a hit. But also, you know, Black and White is good. You know, the great riff. But there's another one which I really like.
Not Jam, the one who did the video with Michael Jordan, but
no. But you know, he got to do the one with Janet. And here's another one.
Yeah.
If I had like way more thing, I would have done a whole thing on Janet, because I think Janet is like the real winner out of everything. You know, because while the dad was just screaming at the brothers all the time, I'm sure, and traumatizing Michael, you know,
she managed to skip by.
Yeah, she was like just taking it all in and learning it all. And like, if you hold up the amount of hits, and in fact, she just did. There's a great video of her doing some festival over in Europe, and the amount of hits that she has is like, it's almost as much as Michael's. You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there was a whole thing. It's another one of those Twitter or Blue Sky fights where somebody is bringing in Taylor Swift is bigger than Michael Jackson was, and it's like, A, she wouldn't say that. B, as one black music critic wrote on my Twitter feed, if you drop Taylor Swift in Africa, they would think she was an aid worker. If you drop Michael Jackson in Africa, everybody would just, it's Michael Jackson. You know, there's
there
was global icon
anywhere,
a different world, and that was again pre-internet, when things proliferated differently and popularity was a different phenomenon. But a weird thing I wanted to ask. Imposter syndrome versus imposter benefit. Like, starting out, we'll say your performing career not being you, and what it meant to, like, okay, I now know what it's like to not have Keith in the forefront and, you know, becoming an artist in a lot of different respects. You know, whether that had an influence or an effect, I guess.
Oh, it had a great effect, because when you go into this character, you suddenly have all this confidence that you don't have as a regular human being, at least at that age for me. And so it's like, oh, okay, I'm like this super dynamic performer, you know, and sure, I was not a good impersonator.
No, but at the time.
But you know, like, so it just, I mean, it garnered a lot of attention, you know, from many teenage girls, and I talk about this in the book. It's the first time I run a business. It's the first time, you know, I'm like dealing with all these different aspects that I deal with today as a businessman, as a cartoonist. So I think there's so much. There was so much benefit to it that,
like I say, instead of imposter syndrome, you get imposter boon.
Yeah. It was fun.
Weird question: Stevie Wonder really blind? I never knew that was a controversy until a few years ago.
Listen, everything's a controversy, but I am convinced that Stevie Wonder is blind. I'll tell you this: I was just so psyched. That was the first concert I went to when I moved to Los Angeles, and the last concert was Prince, and so but it's a nice sandwich. It's a nice end to end.
Yeah. In that chapter on Songs in the Key of Life, where you mentioned the sheer number of albums that Stevie, I think you said it was his 18th or 19th record at that point, and was hitting his peak. Yeah, people were putting more stuff out at the time, but still, just you know, continuing to climb.
And that was the third album, like his 3-album run. Some would even say 4, is unprecedented. It's like just insane. It's insane.
So SPX, good experience so far? Seeing anybody interesting?
Oh,
getting me comics?
SPX. Well, you're just turning me on to all this good stuff.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Reagan Buchanan. I had no idea who this person was, and all of a sudden, oh my God, great young cartoonist.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, it's great to see. It's great to see a lot of great young cartoonists, and I don't like to walk around the floor because I don't want to spend all the money that I've made.
I've discovered people give you stuff. It's great. People think I'm like Tom Spurgeon now, and they're just, oh, Gil, I'd love for you to read my thing. I'm like,
that's good.
Take it, sure, you know. But,
I have some people giving me stuff, so that's good. And what I love about SPX, I mean, I get a lot of interesting stuff. I got beer. I've gotten weed. There's a guy who's going to bring apfel strudel tomorrow from a German bakery. And yeah, I get comics too. But yeah, there are certain comics I think I'm going to go right before it opens up and just hit those places because, before it opens, like, once it opens, everyone's
the
looking
flood
at
is
you.
coming in, but you're an exhibitor, so you're already on the floor. You can kind of, let me just check this and this. And,
yeah.
And I'll say I went to the documentary for the first night about Carol Tyler and Justin Green, and one of the people I took with me apparently was carrying a nice stash of weed with him the whole time, which I didn't quite know about before he got in my car. But it's okay. Apparently everything's fine. But he had these little half-size joints that are apparently called dog walkers.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Like that's actually creative. I like that'll last you long enough for a walk with. Yeah, that's good. So, but yes, he was smoking while we were walking down the street. I'm like, okay, because it's 2023, and that's a different world than we grew up in, where again you had been buried under the jail.
Yes.
At that point, reading comics, prose, anything.
Yeah. I guess I'm just reading a lot of comics right now. Just what I bring home, but I don't know who anything's by or or
afterwards it'll be, what is this? How did I end up with this?
Yeah. No, but it's cool. There were. I'll end up buying like $100 worth of stuff tomorrow. And hopefully I'll try to get away with that. Yeah. And just, it'll be nice. I homeschool my kids. So like, there's always really cool educational, like comics, like that history of women in baseball. I want to pick up.
Yeah, Ellen's stuff is great. So that's a real worthwhile one to grab. You mentioned going to San Diego. Have you been doing festivals otherwise, or festivals and cons otherwise, or is it still just kind of segging back in the post-pandemic?
I've been doing different things. So, I'm an old man, so
that's part of it. I turned 50 during all this. I don't have the energy and the stamina that I had for some of these shows in the past.
No, but I have the energy. But I'm at the point now where I want to be a guest.
Yeah. Like, no table.
Yeah.
I mean, table if it's part of the guest thing.
It's like, invite me, and I will gladly come. But yeah, just sort of lugging it and taking a chance for, like spending all this money to go to some place and not making anything. It's a big downer. So, if people invite me out, I'll make sure they get their whatever table's worth or money, they invested in me coming out. My career requires me to do at least 2 to 3 events per month. So that means it could mean anything from, I just did a slideshow at the NC Museum of Art, and then I'm doing this event, and then I think I'm doing a End Paper. It's called End Paper Printed Matter Festival in North Carolina, and like that
helps every month, and you
add that with the and it'll start once I do the universities and schools, the slideshows. That makes it easier. But I enjoy it. I enjoy visiting, seeing people in person and talking comics. And
it's weird. It's only in this weekend that I've actually encountered at least 3 cartoonists who would say they're extroverts, ultimately, because we know cartoonists are a superstitious and cowardly lot who, hide from all human contact, where you and a couple of others I've met actually seem to be in the wrong profession. I'm just kidding. You seem to be, you know, people who actually want to be out in the world and interact more. So.
And I mean, it's part of the fun. I think, I would even think the most introverted cartoonists still enjoy
I like the validation of meeting people and hearing that, oh, hey, I like this comic.
Yeah, exactly.
That's still got to be a thrill. But anyway, I will let you get back to it. And Keith, thanks so much for coming back on the show.
Yeah, thank you. This is, it's a nice... I always like your setup. You always got stuff going on here that makes me go, I would love to do a podcast. But
these mics, when I went through TSA one time, I always looked so I could see the TSA person when they're seeing what this is, because these look so weapon-like when they go through. And one time they said to me, "Sir, are you a hip-hop artist?" Yes, and I had that same reaction of, do I look like a hip-hop artist? And they're like, can we just say you were? I'm like, feel free. But yeah, no, this is just a podcast. But
actually, you do look like some sort of
weird hippie surfer thing at this point, but sure.
Yeah, but just like, in their bedroom making beats, blah, blah, blah. The thing that I get stopped for is, and I don't take it anymore, the little scanner.
For pages, for your art.
For pages. Yeah. And then the gummy eraser. Like they don't think the gummy eraser is an explosive.
Yeah, my thing just looks like sniper setup and everything else and potential bombs. But yes, you know.
Yeah, and in Germany, like they stop me.
It's just art supplies.
Yeah, it's pretty. I get pulled aside all the time, and I think I honestly believe that there's some dossier out there about the subject matter that my comics are, because I get pulled over all the time.
You're woke.
There you go. See, now that's good writing. Just end it like that.
Perfect.
And that was Keith Knight. Go to kchronicles.com and order I Was a Teenage Michael Jackson Impersonator, as well as some of Keith's other collections while you're there. You will enjoy the heck out of this book. And make sure you catch Woke on Hulu. The K Chronicles site also has Keith's new strips, announcements about his slideshows and other appearances, and a whole lot more. You should also support Keith, which I do, through his Patreon, which is Keith Knight, which is KEEFKNIGHT. You can follow him on Twitter, also as Keith Knight, and on Instagram as I Am Keith Knight, all one word. And I'll have links to all of that in the show and episode notes for this one. Oh, and when he mentions at History of Women's Baseball, he's talking about the work of our past guest, Ellen Lindner, who was at the table next to him at the show at Small Press Expo. She's at littlewhitebird.com, but I'll have a link to that too. You can support this show by telling other people about it. Just let them know there's this podcast that comes out every week featuring really interesting conversations with fascinating creative folks. You can also help out the show by telling me what you like and don't like about it, and who you'd like to hear me record with, or what movie or TV show or book or music or piece of theater or whatever you think I should turn listeners on to. You can do that by emailing me, DMing me if we're connected on social media, sending me a postcard or a letter. My mailing address is at the bottom of the weekly Substack that I put out, or by leaving a message on my Google Voice number, which is 973-869-9659. That goes directly to voicemail, so you don't have to worry about getting stuck in an awkward conversation with me. And messages can be up to 3 minutes long. You go longer than that, it'll hang up on you. Just call back and leave the rest of your message. And let me know if it would be okay to include your message in an upcoming episode of the show. You might have something interesting to share with listeners, but I would never run something like that without the speaker's permission. So, let me know. Now, if you got money to spare, don't give it to me. I mean, I have a Patreon, I have a Substack, which is free, but there's a paid tier if you really want to contribute to the cause. But really, help other people, help other institutions. You can find people through GoFundMe, Patreon, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Crowdfunder, and all those other crowdfunding platforms. There's a lot of people out there who need help with medical bills or rent or veterinary bills or getting a artistic project off the ground. Whatever it is, you can probably help them out a lot more than you can help me. Now, when it comes to institutions in need, I give to my local food bank every month, make occasional contributions to the Poor People's Campaign, Freedom Funds, some election funds because I'm a lobbyist and that's my job, and Planned Parenthood and Women's Choice. And, well, there are a lot of things you can do with your money to help build a better world. So, I hope you will. Our music for this episode is Fella by Hal Mayforth, used with permission from the artist. You should visit my archives to check out my episode with Hal from the summer of 2018 and learn more about his art and painting. And you can listen to his music at soundcloud.com/Mayforth. And that's MAY4TH. And that's it for this week's episode of the Virtual Memories Show. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great conversation. You can subscribe to the Virtual Memories Show and download past episodes at the iTunes Store. You can also find all our episodes and get on our email list at either of our websites, vmspod.com or chimeraobscura.com/VM. You can also follow the Virtual Memories Show on Twitter and Instagram at vmspod, at virtualmemoriespodcast.tumblr.com, and on YouTube, Spotify, and TuneIn.com by searching for Virtual Memories Show. And if you like this podcast, please tell your pals, talk it up on social media, and go to iTunes, look up the Virtual Memories Show, and leave a rating and maybe a review for us. It all goes to helping us build a bigger audience. Now, you've been listening to the Virtual Memories Show. I'm your host, Gil Roth. Keep reading, keep making art, and keep the conversation going.